Thank you for joining me for another episode of Parents Who Write. Tonight, I am going to talk about what is a chapter. Chapters divide your writing into meaningful, intentional sections. They create a break that allows the reader the ability to process what the heck just happened in the story. Each chapter should contribute to advancing your plot and build up your story's momentum. I like to think of chapters as getting my character from point A to point B, emotionally and or physically. And I do that by including conflict, which should have a combination of internal and external conflict. Literary fiction and memoir usually have more internal conflict, such as overcoming childhood scars. Fantasy and sci-fi usually have more external conflict, like elves and humans hating each other, which is my book, by the way. Romance can choose to focus on one or the other. For example, perhaps your character struggles internally with trusting others, or maybe your story focuses on the fact that society does not approve of your character's relationship, thus creating massive amounts of external conflict. Regardless, you want to have both types of conflict. You want both external and internal conflict within your story because they add layers to your writing. The average length of a chapter is between 2,000 words and 5,000 words, with the average falling around 3,000 words per chapter. And your chapters are not necessarily a single scene. Chapters can actually comprise one scene or multiple, but they have the same goal in mind. You can end a chapter a few ways. If you're approaching that 5,000 word mark and you're still going, then you can break the chapter in half if you change scenes or you have a jump in time. So you know how books have that white space that you can put in between your paragraphs to indicate that you're transitioning to a different scene or a different time or something has happened in between that white space. If you're hitting that 5,000 mark, you can use that as an opportunity to actually just start a new chapter. Your chapters can end on a cliffhanger, and your chapters can also foreshadow what's on the horizon for your character. But regardless of how you end your chapter, the chapter should have achieved its purpose or its goal. Remember I said at the beginning where it's like getting your character from point A to point B? If you have no idea what to write next, think about where your character is at the beginning of the chapter. What is it that they want and where are they headed? Once you know your character's trajectory, ask yourself what next step they must take or what next challenge must they overcome that will get them closer to that final destination. And that's the goal of your chapter, that next step or that next challenge, which should also include external and internal conflict. We should also be able to see that cause and effect relationship between their choices and the outcome. And when starting a new chapter, here's actually a challenge that I'm going to give you. This is a challenge that my professor in college gave us. Especially when we were reviewing other people's work, when we were workshopping it, he would say at the beginning of your review, write one sentence that states, this is the purpose of this chapter. And so I would challenge you that when you start writing your chapter, try to identify its goal or purpose. Think of this like your compass that will help you find your way through the woods and toward civilization rather than trekking in circles while fearing eventual dehydration and death. So here's an example for my book, right? A very simple statement that identifies the purpose of your chapter. For my book, chapter 1 is about Adeline getting from our world to another world. Chapter 2 is about her meeting my secondary characters and deciding to follow them. Chapter 3 is about her making a plan to get home. And Chapter 4 is about her observing this new world and trying to fit in. This still allows for creativity because I had no idea what would convince Adeline to follow my side characters. I just knew that I needed her to go with them for my story to progress the way that I wanted. And she sure does love to surprise me with her choices. This is the same character who decided to run into a cave and get separated from my other characters. And I was like, well, gosh darn. But I knew what I wanted the next chapter to focus on. So I had a direction. I was like, I've got to find a way to help her get there. And surprise, she did, actually. I really like what came out of that scene. But anyway, okay, sorry, I'm totally segueing. Other writers like to plan further by outlining some key moments, some key discoveries, and breadcrumbs that they want to include in that chapter. Do what works for you. But I do recommend that at the very least, you know where your character is headed, what's motivating them, and what they're about to face. And that is what your chapter should look at. At the very least, it's about that next step, that next challenge that they need to overcome. I hope that you found this helpful. I know that getting back into writing can be overwhelming and confusing. If you are interested in getting help with that, please feel free to reach out and schedule a free 30-minute conversation with me, and I will help you figure out what your writing goals are and how we can help get you there, and whether or not if my coaching program is a fit for you. Regardless, I can still help you to figure out what it is that you want to do next and how to get there.